Lights, camera support, navigating government support for film and digital content creation is why I'm here. My name is Ndume Green. I'm the CEO, founder of Capital TV Nigeria. It's a great pleasure to be here. I wouldn't want to repeat the reservations that has been expressed by Uncle Sam about how poor we take free knowledge in Africa. And that has been where the world has always exploited us. The world has always taken advantage of Africa's lack of knowledge, lack of interest in knowledge. And up to today, there is a deliberate plan to continue to keep us behind, despite our access to technology like the mobile phones. People are still not having access to knowledge. And it's a bad thing that we couldn't fill this small hall for such a wonderful event. Well, I think because maybe it's free, maybe next time the organizers will make it free again. I used to organize the Africa Content Festival yearly, and I don't make it free. You pay for it. By the time you bring out your 5,000 naira, you value the importance of coming to sit down, to have people like Sam Dede, people like Hilda Dokubo come to speak for free. It's a big deal. It's something I'm attending a conference in London in November. I know how much an AI journalism conference, and I know how much it's going to cost for people to attend. I am going as a speaker, and the funding involved in taking me there to speak. So let's value knowledge. Let's take it as a very important thing. Now, Sam has actually, a lot of people have spoken about what I was supposed to say, but I'm just going to emphasize, because I was hoping we'll have a slide and it to help me, but then we don't. So what is light? You all have light here, right? Don't you have light? So light is one of the most significant aspects of your production. Light and sound. I used to say that you could manage a bad picture quality, but you cannot manage a bad light and sound. I mean, the beauty that it brings in your production is something that you don't need to compromise as a content creator. And I understand Uncle Sam's predicament in accepting the concept of a content creator, because it's crazy now, isn't it? What people are calling content creation. In their days, for purposes of brevity, we've jammed in filmmaking, photography, videography, cinematography, of course, joined, and all into one concept as what? Content creation. But he said something very important. He said that the African contribution to the global content value chain is about $4 billion. Now, the total value of the global content market is about 500 billion. So it means that Africa is contributing just about less than 10% to the global content market. So it means we are still a virgin continent when it comes to content. We have not done anything yet. Nothing. And for us here in the Niger Delta, I worked with I worked internationally as an investigative journalist for over 10 years. And I set up the first non-Ghanaian TV station in the Republic of Ghana before returning to Nigeria. And one of the things that we planned to do was to tell the African story. And in 2017, we discovered we had invested nearly $30,000 in traveling across West Africa to tell African story. But when I came back to Nigeria, I realized that as an Ogoni person, in Ogoni alone, I could be raking as much as $100,000 a year telling just the Ogoni story. Yes. And we've been doing it. In the last 2 years, we've made it a must that we must get a grant every year. And these grants are very simple to access. But there is something about grants. You cannot get a grant because you know how to speak English or you know how to write. You must show proof of what you have done. You must show proof of your work. And the biggest grant sector as we speak now is environment and climate change. And that is what we are sitting on in the Niger Delta as content creators. But what are we doing? We are twerking on our WhatsApp statuses and Facebook to draw content. And there is power, there is gold underneath us. We want to fight for amnesty, we want to fight for NDDC. We want contracts in these places. And when the contracts come, we spend them in hotels. No investments. So what's happening to all the hotels are filling everywhere? And in Port Harcourt, no hotel is lasting more than 10 years, apart from presidential. Quote me. Is there any hotel in Port Harcourt, apart from presidential hotel, that is as glittery and shining and can host a 4-star guest that has lasted for 25, 30 years? Go and check. So the world is moving into technology. The media, we just talked about content creation and the value and the power of it. I'll tell you something. The idea, because we are talking about navigating government support and funding. See, the moment you allow government to get into funding for any content creation or the creative sector, they will turn it to propaganda. Government's business is not to provide money for you to make your content. Government's job is to provide policies and to create an enabling environment for you to thrive. I'm going to dive into a small bit of history, because I love history a lot. You know, Africa was, the desire to take over Africa began in an organized sector in 1884 through the Berlin Conference. At the Berlin Conference, white people sat and decided they were going to share Africa into pieces. Before they did that, there was already a scramble for Africa. The Portuguese were here. Before the British came, the Portuguese were here. The Portuguese did not come to turn us to slaves. The Portuguese came to buy palm oil. We were business people. But they realized that they could not be running business with us at that pace unless they conquer us. So, in 1884, officially, they designed a pattern to introduce officially the transatlantic slave trade. And they made it so tactically correct and planned. I've traveled a lot across the continent. Nigeria is the only English-speaking country on this axis of the planet, of the continent. If you check around, we are surrounded by French-speaking countries. They blocked us from communicating. If Nigeria and Ghana shared a border, probably there wouldn't have been a border between us. Because the French system of assimilation in its colonial understanding was so deep. It's a different thing from the indirect rule of the British. So they've created this sort of artificial borders. Have you asked yourself, you travel to the Scandinavian countries, Norway and the rest, and you trek from one country to the other. But the European Union is giving the ECOWAS sub-region grants to build new borders. So you're traveling now to Cote d'Ivoire. You are going to meet giant borders in Seme, giant borders in Ilakonji, giant borders at Aflao, giant borders at Elugbo. But in Europe, they are taking away the borders. What you see as border in Europe is a line. We have been taught to hate ourselves. We have been taught to not to like ourselves. Look at what's happening in Ghana now. Their problem is that somebody in Accra said he's an Igbo king, and it's a national debate. What's the difference between the Ghanaian and the Nigerian? If a Ghanaian sits here, will you know? You will never know. Same thing with a South African. Same thing. You do it. We are supposed, just like what Uncle Sam was talking about here. You see, revolution, people say revolution will not happen in Africa because we don't know our history. We are not angry at where we are supposed to be. See what's happening in Nepal. Look at the Arab Spring. It happened because these people felt something is missing, and they had to take their destiny into their hands. The NSAS protest came. All they did was to find a way to divide the group, and everybody scattered. Divide and rule is a weapon in the hands of our leaders. So we cannot unite. And so back to my story. So what happened is that Africa's narrative, Africa's story is not being told by Africans. I attended a conference in 2015, and I met a Dutch producer. He said that Europeans they've exhausted their storylines. They have exhausted it. Africa has not told 5% of it. Who has told the story of King Jaja of Opopo? None. Who has told the story of Ken Saro-Wiwa? None. These are blockbuster stories. Can mention on and on and on. The Aba women riot. Who has told about it? The strength of feminism. Before white people discovered that women were strong, our women have been stronger. I come from Ogoni. We are a feminist society. We call women are regarded in Ogoni language. God is a woman. Before this idea of equity, feminism, and all this started, it's been here. But these stories have been carved in a way that they've left us behind. So people like Daniel Defoe Robinson Crusoe came up with narratives. These narratives, I don't know how many of you have read these books. Or someone like Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. They described us as cannibals to conquer us and say they need to introduce to us their way of what? Life. So the African woman has to buy a Brazilian hair of 1 million. But deep down in the heart of the white man, they wish they have our hair. True. Everything, just like it's like they give me the same topic in Uncle Samo. Our clothing, our dressing, everything. We are controlled by the dollar. So we can never move forward beyond this. Every country that has moved, countries like China, don't depend on the dollar. Countries like Japan, countries like Russia, these countries, they got themselves off from the West, and they are doing much better today. Nigeria, President Kufuor told me something in 2011. I was having an interview with him where I was working with ATV South Africa. I said, Ndume, now this Africa will not move forward until your country moves forward. And that's the truth. And that's why they are giving us bad leaders. Do you know that they sit somewhere to decide who will be our president? You don't know that. You think it's a joke. They sit in Washington. They sit in London. They sit in Paris. I'm sorry, don't record me. Our president is on vacation in Paris now. A few days ago, he was in the Elysee Palace with Macron. Who does that? Come on. This is wrong. You go for vacation in another country. What happens to all the beautiful beaches scattered around Lagos? Why can't Opopo? People go to the Maldives. I was on the shoreline, on the creek of Bodo some days ago to speak to Perenco pickers. And I got to a part of the creek that had this shiny white sand. And I asked myself, what business are we doing with oil if we have this? Far better than the Maldives. As I was coming here, my wife and I were just talking about a vacation we went some time ago in Ghana. The place we went, just normal place. They've transformed it. A room there is about $500 per night. It's not as fine as the creeks of Opopo. It's good that the governor is coming. You people should tell him to take a 5-star resort to Opopo and keep. He should make it a business. Those who know him. We have been disorganized. Our stories, and there's something about storytelling. That is why it is said that the story will always glorify the hunter until the lion himself learns how to tell his own story. That parable is talking to Africa. We do not know the power of the media. Hidabasi is in Lagos hosting the biggest jollof rice cooking record competition. Not a competition, setting a record. Is it not trending? Is it not trending than our Bole festival? I'm not criticizing. They are deliberate about news making. They want the news to be there. But if they were killing somebody in Port Harcourt now, they will come and trend it. Tell me why Punch, Vanguard, Guardian, they did not cover Bole Festival the way they are covering a jollof rice cooking competition at Eco Hotel. Bole, it didn't trend. Why did it not trend? We in Port Harcourt do not have narrative power. And we are behind. There's nothing we are going to do about it. You and I, all of you here, we need to rise up and grow narrative power. That's why I came up with Capital TV. Because I felt, being someone who has been on the international space, I understand how this thing works. And I need to tell the Niger Delta story. You need to tell that story. As a content creator, I used to say it, I don't have any reason. I'm going to talk about grants. I think I have just a few minutes to go. I don't want to live in London. Fine, it's good for people to travel because every year I get grants that is multi-thousands of dollars in grants from contents in the Niger Delta. So how do you tailor your contents to access grants? You must be deliberate about it. They mentioned MasterCard, but there is a platform now called the Africa No Filters. How many of you have heard of Africa No Filters? Okay. So Africa No Filter is currently the biggest grant giving platform for upcoming content creators. And all you need to do first is to break into what they call the Africa Collective Narrative Group. I mean, I have received about 2 grants so far from Africa No Filters. But you must be deliberate. You can't get grants by making some of the content we are making. I think we are joking. There are 2 things. You either want to make content for the audience or content for audience and grants. Let's say, for example, Sabinus. He has an audience, doesn't he? But if you want to make content for grants, you must target key areas that grant providers are interested in. Whether human rights, whether women's rights, children's rights, infant and maternal health, climate change, environment. These are critical areas, research, that can allow you get access to grants. And there's so much opportunities out there. In fact, if you even link up to opportunities.com alone every month, that means you could be receiving newsletter of more than 50 grants every week. That's about 200 links per month. And there is no way if you have done your work. Because you see, the problem that we have in the Niger Delta is that we do not want to be mentored. Everybody thinks they know. And you cannot know it all. For example, I have used this phone. I shot a content for the African Union November last year with this phone. Everything was with this phone. I traveled to 2 African countries to shoot that content. You can start your content making with this phone and a good sound and tripod. Because I use a Samsung, it shoots in 4K. I don't buy my phone because it is fine. I'm changing this phone now because I feel there are new features in a higher version of it. I don't give a damn about the phone. I'm buying my phone. I could spend 2 million on it. It's a work material for me. So what are you doing with your iPhone 16? You just use it to put and you roll your tongue. And you shake your head and you post it. Come again? And the bomb. Come on, why are we doing this? And you see, this digital footprint you're creating for yourself, they'll be there forever. You can't even, some of you will forget. You think people, 10 years later, they will bring it. Is it not this girl that used to shake her, this thing? Why do people want to make her a governor? So I think we must be deliberate. I understand that our government, when we talk about government support for content creators, our government is not interested in you. Not interested in the content you're making. You need to break into the circle of the market. And you don't need to do that by being first in the organized film industry. How much did they say Pastor Jerry makes again? They say it's the highest now, right? Because he's praying every morning and you are linking up. It's changing your life and it's changing his life too. But there could be a challenge because you're posting, now only one like you they get. But Sabino started with one post and never got a like. And where is he today? As at when Mark Angel started YouTube, many people thought he was joking. So content is about consistency too. You must be consistent. But you see, there is a kind of self-realization and self-consciousness coming up. People are beginning to demand for good content. What is fine, what is educative and all that. And so you must begin to tilt towards a line of not just doing content for the sake of it, but doing content for the sake. He said something. He said that an art is not an art if it does not change the society you belong in. Your art must change. You must speak to an audience. You must talk to a set, a caliber of people. So government support, their job is to provide enabling environment. They won't give you anything. Take all your things to the bank. They just look at you and laugh. But a lot of people are beginning to understand the power of content creation. And platforms like, for example, Afrexim Bank just launched a 1 billion Africa Film Fund to transform the continent's creative industry. 1 billion, that's a lot. But again, the other day I was talking to a friend, I said, that works. I said, this 1 billion, where am I going to take it now? And she sent me a criteria to access it. I said, if people just want to make news, how am I going to see the kind of plenty things you have set up for me to access this money? So that's where we need to have an engagement with the government also. We don't say, talk to the banking sector to sort of create better and easy access for creators in terms of funding. That's the only thing we need. The moment government gives you money for your content, they will tell you what to do. They will tell you, and you will not be free to express yourself. And any content that is not self-expressive is a defeated content. It's not beautiful because content is creativity. And when creativity is taken out of your content, it becomes monotonous. It's a routine content that you're creating. So just to summarize, light camera support, navigating government support for fund and digital content creation. I talked about light and the importance of it. The fact that if you're shooting and you know you don't have good light, the best thing is to be outside and do your shoots. Don't ever shoot indoors with poor lighting and say, during editing, you go manage them. That's a lie. Your camera, I was talking to my wife and I said, I went to the field to shoot for a company and they brought their gadgets. I made a mistake not to have come with mine because I thought they have very good gadgets and they are expensive. They bought these gadgets with over 30 million naira. And I pulled out the mic. It was not, the phone they bought, a Google Pixel phone they bought with for the production, it was not picking the mic. I had to put it in my phone to be able to work with it. Complex. So it's not about how expensive the equipment is. But this is a problem many content creators have. They want to save 5 million to buy their first camera. You can actually use your mobile phone of 500K to produce magic. You must not wait for big budget equipment to get into the content frame. I've told you that navigating government support, the moment you want to do that, it's always been there. Governments are content creators for purposes of propaganda. It was used in the transatlantic slave trade. It was used in the colonization of Africa. And many governments are still using that. That's why you just see what happened this morning. Our government has appointed 5 media aides because they see that the fire is coming for 2027. They want people that will lash. They are paying people on Twitter to lie. They are looking for people on Facebook. I'm telling you, I don't want to say I've been contacted. They are asking content creators to be ready to take money and lie. Because election is coming and they know that the revolution will come from social media. It's happening in Nepal. And it could spread. The Arab Spring started with an orange cell, I think, in Tunisia. And before we knew, it was in Egypt. Before we knew, it was in Morocco. Before we knew, And of course, there is a military coup, boost in West Africa now. It's in Burkina Faso, it's in Mali. The government of Togo is shaking as we speak. In Niger, in Chad. Of course, we saw what happened in Libya. Why did they kick out Gaddafi? They are struggling with terrorism, with bandits, with Taliban today because white people sat down and said the only way to set Africa back is to destroy Libya. You know, all the arms that are used, let me just leave this classified information. For the crisis we are having here, we are created again for us. Boko Haram is finishing us in the north. Herdsmen are in Enugu. They are walking into communities in Ogoni. I was in Boni the other day and I saw cows. The Boni people are angry. They don't want the road because they feel the road will bring in these people. When the water was there, you cannot enter canoe and come now, the boats. They don't want the road, and I agree with them. They've been in peace. So, finally, just to summarize, is the fact that you need to position yourself for what is coming. You heard Uncle Sam talk about it. The content market is a vast economic pool. Take advantage of it. If you don't know how to, I see the one that is doing now, podcasts are everywhere. People are just talking. Everybody just sets ring and sets camera and begin to talk. What's your plan with your podcast? What do you want to achieve? Do you want to just let people see you? Don't gain popularity that will not bring you money. You enter inside bus sweating with your popularity. Your popularity should bring you money, at least to live a comfortable life, not to be notorious. Nigeria is populously what? Notorious. It's not bringing us anything. So I hope you take advantage of a $500 billion US chain. Conclusively, recently, I saw the need. I saw the vacuum that was in the content space, and I came up with let me just tell you how government can destroy things and why we don't need to rely on them. I got my personal funding to start a film village in Thai. I don't know how many of you heard about it. A local government chairman heard that my consultancy firm was engaged by an opposing senator. I have a consultancy firm. It was engaged. I don't do politics. I didn't even show in the photo. He just heard that it was my company that handled the grant for the senator. The next day, he sent people to go and stop the work and detailed army and police there. The place became bush. I lost my money, I lost the zeal, and I lost the opportunity to at least empower nothing less than 1,000 content creators in photography, in cinematography, free every year with international partners. That's the kind of government we are dealing with. And I hope you know the election is coming. You must vote them out. Thank you very much.